Mr. Ed here. Today is June 29th, 2020. Yep, I'm in the Abbey honey house and I just assembled the knives inside of our honey wax separator. And those bad boy ninja knives, I take utmost care with them. They're very sharp, and so I kind of like keep them boxed up and separated from everything so nobody will have a little accident with them, because that accident's not going to be little, it's going to be big, so I take care of that. So what am I going to do today? Well, last Saturday we processed the 115 boxes, wound up with like 520 gallons of honey, and during the process you saw us using the honey wax separator. The honey and the wax cappings that were coming off of our uncapping machine were being dumped into our separator and spun out, and then the wax was then removed from here. In fact, let me show you the wax that we got from that last one. This is the garbage can that I used to put all the cappings in, and as you can see, look at this. I mean, that wax is just dried out. That separator works so well. And I weighed this wax on our scale, right this, and it was 118 pounds of wax in this garbage can right now. That's a lot of wax. And well, I'm gonna get a lot more today as well. So what I'm gonna be doing today is taking the drums that we had dumped all of the honey and wax from our extractor right here. We'll be taking those drums and I'm going to be removing that layer of wax that has risen up from all the honey and settled up on the surface of the honey. I'll remove that wax and throw it into the spinner and separate out the honey from that as well. And that's why I put the knives back in it. When I'm running our honey from the uncapping machine, there's so much honey in there, the mixture is really liquidy and moist. So I don't need to have the knives in there. But today, the wax cappings, they're pretty dry. It's like almost like a rock almost, because they're dried out. It's been 9 days since we've done that. And so it's pretty hard. So I want to use the knives in there to break that clump of wax that's all bunched up together so it'll separate out and spin out to the sides of the drum. Now, one of the questions that I was asked in the past, when we're using our extractor to spin the honey out and all that honey and wax are all mixed up together, the question is, well, why don't I just run that honey that's being pumped out of the extractor into our honey wax separator? And I could do that. The reason I don't do that is because it's going to slow our process down. And like you saw, there was 115 pounds of wax that we took out of the uncapping machine. And today I'll probably get at least 50, 60 pounds more from our drums. So if I have to take that additional wax out of the drums that's being dumped inside this separator from our extractor, it's going to slow our process down. And the way we have the line set up, it's designed not to stop, except to load and unload this extractor. That's the only time we have downtime. And if we were going to pump the honey wax mixture into here, it's only going to add to our day. So I'm not interested in that. I just soon come back at a different date today and take care of the wax that's risen up to the top. And that's the reason I don't run my honey that's coming out of my extractor into my separator, even though I could. It's just, I choose not to. The process today is I'll just grab the drums, wheel them over one at a time, and start shoveling out the wax cappings that are on top of it, dropping it into the extractor. I've got a 5-gallon bucket set up right here with a filter on it, and the honey that's coming out of that will then just be filtered out and go into this drum. So by the grace of God, I'll start on this, separating out this wax from our honey drums, And at the end of the day, we'll have all of our drums. I think there's 9 or 10 drums. No, anyway, there's a lot of drums over there. And we'll get all that stuff done. Let's wrangle up some wax over there and separate it out from our honey drums. Now this is what all the drums are going to look like once we remove the lids from them. Show the wax layer that's on top of them. So you can see, I mean, this is a solid layer of wax, and you can see that there's dead bees up in here. And all of this layer of wax, I'm imagining it's got to be 3 or 4 inches deep. I don't know for sure, but minimally I'd say it's 3 inches. And we're just going to take all of this stuff and with a scooper and just throw it inside of our separator, and I'll try to get this top of this layer of honey completely cleaned off of the wax. Let's go ahead and start that process. There's the result of the wax coming out of 1 drum of honey. I think I'll be lucky if I get to do 3 drums before I have to clean this up. And look how clean our honey is. This is really, really nice. Let me show you the line for the 55-gallon mark. Alright, so here it is right here. This is the mark, and judging from the mark and our honey, we are, only about 1 inch below that. So we're definitely 54 gallons of honey in this drum of honey. Wow, very, very nice. And this is cleaned up. This is ready. I don't filter any of this honey other than what you just saw. I just skim the top, because I really like having all the active ingredients in our honey. We don't put heat to it, so we're all active ingredients. Whatever was in there when the bees put it in there, it's still in there. The next drum I get, I'm going to show you just how thick that layer of wax is. Let's roll up the next drum. Now, to give you an idea of the thickness of this wax layer, use this hive tool and clear out until I hit the layer of honey, and there it is. So it's at least a 2-inch layer of wax sitting on top of this honey. All right, I'm gonna push this over to the honey wax separator and dump this out as well. I've done 6 drums so far, and this is the wax that I have gotten out from those drums. I've taken the knives out, and now I'm going to go ahead and scrape the drum down and get it all cleaned up for the next run. And we'll show you how much wax we get out of this thing. You may notice I've put the bolts back into the holes that they came from, because I don't want any wax to fall into those holes, and then it'd give me difficulty trying to rethread those bolts. So I'll put them back in there. It'll make it a lot easier when I reinstall those knives. Well, here's the wax that I pulled out of the separator, and you'll notice, as I did, that it is really still a lot of honey inside of it. It's not flaky like the stuff when we did on Saturday. My suspicion is that I had too much wax in there, that I didn't allow it to, I allowed it to build up and didn't clean it enough. So it's 2:30 right now. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. And tomorrow, I'm going to wash down the separator, clean it up a little bit. And tomorrow we'll do it again, but I think I'm going to run just 3 drums through and check the wetness at that point. Because I did notice that there is a lot of foam in this honey at the bottom of these cappings, and that foam may actually trap the honey from separating through. But regardless, this wet honey, this wet wax right here, I'm going to process this stuff almost immediately, so there'll be a video on this. But so I'm not really concerned that much that it's still wet. Our other wax, dry. So tomorrow will be another day, and we'll see if I do better tomorrow. So we'll pick this up tomorrow. All right, back at it for day 2 of taking all that wax off the honey. And in truth, I'm kind of glad that I took a break yesterday, stopped, and it gave me an opportunity to rethink what I want to do, how I want to do it, because this is all pretty new to me as well. And it's one of the great things about being a beekeeper is like, a lot of times there's no one there to explain the procedure to it, that you have to think on it on yourself and figure out a way. And it may not be the right way, but at least you learn something. And a lot of times that's what I do. I don't know exactly what I do, but I'll take the chance, roll with it. If it doesn't work, well, correct and go back. And that's the really great part about beekeeping, is those challenges that keep on challenging us to do better, to come up with things that work, and you know, and just keep on growing in the knowledge of what we do here as beekeepers. So, like I said, this is a new thing for me. So last night, what I decided to do, sometime about probably 2 o'clock in the morning when I woke up thinking about this, I'm going to go ahead and take the bucket, the garbage can that's full of the wax, or the wet wax. It's not soaking wet, it's just damp. And I'm going to go ahead and spread it out in trays, not today and tomorrow, and let the bees go ahead and clean that up, dry it out, and that way I'll be able to store it a little bit better, and I won't be so rushed to get that thing through the rendering process. And I was thinking, well, so why was the wax so much wetter this time than when we were running it from the initial processing of our frames? And my feeling is it's due to the foam that as the honey is sitting and wax separating out of it, that foam that is generated by that process. And I believe that foam makes it more difficult for that honey to pass through the wax. And yesterday I just kept on loading up the wax. We did 6 drums, and at the end of it, the honey just couldn't pass through, so it just stayed lodged in the wax, or at least a percentage of it did. So let me show you, you know, why I think the foam is a cause. I want to show you the foam that's risen from the honey buckets that I was straining out yesterday. Now these are all of the tubs, buckets that I used to catch the honey that was coming out of our separator right here. And these are pretty full. This one was our last one, and that bucket over there was the initial one that I tried to filter the honey, and it didn't work either. Because as you can see, on the surface of every one of these is a layer of foam. And look at this. But right beneath that foam is our honey. And this foam, it's wax particles. They're very, very, very fine wax particles. And they, just as it's bunching up right here, it's like a glob. And that glob, I believe, is what was clogging up my wax, this glob right here. So what I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to first drain, because underneath this foam, it's pretty cleared up honey. So I'm going to drain these buckets so that as I start separating out again, I can continue using these, and I'm not going to worry about the foam that's up in here, because it'll just add some more. And eventually I'll take all this stuff and just feed it to the bees. But you can see it's on every one of these buckets. This one's a little bit heavier, and this was the first one, and this one is like solid up in here. I had filters in this one. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this mess up, and after that, then I'll start dumping up more wax into our separator. So I'm all set up now to start the whole process again. The separator's hooked back up, the knives back in it, the lid's on top of it, my next drum is out, that honey that was in the bucket's been drained out. So I'm ready to start again. And what I want to show as I take the wax out of this drum right here, I want to show you what I think is the reason why that honey is not passing through the wax like it was doing when we were doing the processing. And I think it's due to this layer of foam that's underneath that wax, and because I didn't allow the spinner enough time to spin around, that layer did not pass completely through, and the next layer built up, and so it's just a cumulative effect that was going on here. And I think by reducing the amount of times that I add wax to the extractor and clean it out, it should reduce that stickiness of that honey, but we'll find out in a few minutes. And I'm going to start taking this wax out of here, and I want to show you that layer of foam film that I was talking about. Now this is what I'm talking about, this layer right here, this white foamy stuff, which is the layer of honey that's between the surface of the honey right here and the bottom edge of that wax. And you can see it at this point. This stuff right here, it's like glue. And I believe that's what's not allowing the honey to pass all the way through the wax. But I'm going to go ahead and do one spin and check to see how dry the wax is before we try another load of another drum of wax on top of it. So let's see how this one turns out. As our separator is winding down after the first batch, I'm just curious to see if just running it one batch at a time is going to make our wax any more drier or not. And if it doesn't really make any difference, then I'll just load it up like I did yesterday and feed it to the bees. So I'm going to take the protective covering off and then check out that wax. And here's the big moment. Been waiting for to see if it is any drier. Just putting less wax in here. And it really doesn't appear to be much difference. No, not really. I mean, it's still wet. And I actually let this batch run a little bit longer. But I still think I'm going to go ahead and run single batches. And also I'm going to try not keeping the knife in here and seeing if that's going to make any difference. But I don't think that the wax is going to get any dry. I think that foam, that layer of foam is really what's making the issue. But of course I could be wrong, that's just my guess. This scraper, which is actually the paddle that I use when I boil shrimp and crawfish. Stainless steel, but man, it works great to clean out this drum. And here's the other great tool, an ice scooper. How great is that? It is drier, but not much. And at the end of the day, thank goodness, let me show you what I got. I mean, this is I don't know how much this bucket weighs, but it's got the honey in it, so this one's a little bit heavier than it should be, but that's a full one. And this one, it really did a lot better to do the single batches. This stuff is really dry, very nice and dry. Look at this. It came out really good. I can still feel a little bit of honey in it, but I mean, compared to this one right here, where it won't even break up into anything finer, and those little clumps right there. So that's our wax. Let me show you the honey that I've separated from all this wax. Here's our buckets of honey. They're not all full. This is the first one I did this morning, so it doesn't have anything on it. This one, as well as this little bucket right here. And then all the other ones have foam and wax on it. And I can assure you, with all those buckets right there, easily we got 20 gallons of honey that we separated out from all that wax right there. And I'm convinced the process of us not running our extractor mixture through our honey separator, that won't work for our system, because the time that it took me to clean all this, we'd have to tack that on to what it took us to do the other one. And it's easy for me just to come back and do it another day. Let's wrap up this video. There's the 12 drums that I worked on for the last 2 days. Got all that wax and honey out of. And now the next step is ready for bottling. These guys are ready to start bottling. I'm gonna let them sit for another few more days, let all the air rise up to the top, and we just bleed off the bottom to get our honey. And speaking of honey, I pulled the first bottle right here. Look at this. Look how pretty this is. Wowee. That's right, Abby honey. This going home with me. That's all I got for you this one. I mean, it's a process to get the wax off of there and spin it out, get the honey out of it. But I mean, for the way I do our processing up here at the Abbey, this system works really well for me. It's not for everybody, but for me, it works really well. And that idea I talked about earlier about, learning what you do and keep on learning, it's that whole sense of discovery. As long as we maintain that sense of wonder, of discovery, no matter what we do, beekeeping or whatever our jobs, man, life will never get old. So thanks for watching. Keep on watching. I'll be making more. God bless. Mr. Ed, I'm out here until the next video. Well, what better way of drying out that honey-soaked wax than letting the bees take care of it for me? Huh? I put all that wet wax, that honey-laden wax that was in that garbage can right there, put it in these trays right here. And I was trying to get trays that had high enough sides on it so that the bees wouldn't kick the wax out, but I can still see there's some outside here. But for the most part, it's staying inside of the trays. Let them finish cleaning this stuff out. It's still a little damp underneath it. They'll keep on working at it. They may get it done by today. I doubt it. But you can see they work holes into the wax, and then they just start digging in and getting the honey that's all around it. And that's how they get to the bottom of that wax. They just create a hole and go into it and start getting the honey out. So you'll see all these little pockets of bees in here, the dark spots. That's just holes where they bored in, and now they're getting the honey out of there. When these guys have finished getting all the honey out of this, I'll go ahead and empty this back into the garbage can, and you can see it's still wet, but it's a lot drier on the surface, but it gets a little wetter down below. And it'll all go in the garbage can, and we'll make another video on rendering it. Alright girls, speed up.